Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Anime Relatable, and I'm excited because it's another day where I get to interview some dope artists, right? And not just any dope artists. I mean, artists that look like me, right? And not saying that that's the only thing that I do, but I think this channel has a really big emphasis, and I think I wanted to have a big emphasis on just interviewing people that don't get much love in our space. But I think it's a growing trend now, and I think eventually it's not just going to be the standard people that just make manga and comic books, but it's going to be people that look like us, people that look like other people as well. So, who I have for you today is somewhat like as soon as this guy he reached out, and we were chopping up a little bit, and this man was gonna give me some of his manga for free. I was like, nah. Your manga is too great for me to just get for free. I gotta buy it because I think it's important to support our own people. So, who I have for you guys today is a legend, a guy who I shouldn't even been doing this interview right now. Someone else who has more of a following than me to be doing this interview right now. But I am thankful that he has graced me with his presence to be able to do this interview and get to know his story. So I'm excited, guys. Clap your hands. I don't have a clapper thing right now, but clap your hands for Euwarnii Hughes. I am excited to interview this man. He is the author of the manga Bold Saga. So before we get in, yo, bro, tell him about you. Tell him about your story. I would love to hear it.
Awesome. Thank you again, Eli. Hey, Kings and Queens. I'm Euwarnii Hughes, CEO of Great Yell and the mangaka of Bold Saga, Afro-Futurism manga empowering kings and queens to seize greatness. And my backstory, that's very humble for you to call me a legend. I'm just someone who's willing to do what God has called me to do. And my backstory is that I've been a longtime fan of manga. I grew up with comics and superheroes and all that. And before I got into drawing, I used to draw mazes. So it's interesting I got into manga, the line work. And throughout my journey, I remember I went to Barnes and Nobles one day and I was like, I'm looking for something different. And then I held this book for the first time and it changed everything. Once I held One Piece, it felt magnetic. And I was like, this is different. I got to find a way to do this. So fast forward, moved to the Caribbean and changed up everything for me. I feel that that was God having, what's the word I'm looking for? Almost like Joseph to a degree, a situation where
Mm.
you're pulled out of the ordinary and put somewhere else to just refine you. That was where I really got my love of manga. And I can go more in depth a bit later, but that's where my real love of manga happened when I was in Antigua, when I was in the Caribbean, when I had to draw to keep my sanity. And from there, it just went from loving One Piece and Naruto and all of that to realizing there's a gap in the industry. Like, I
Mm.
like the fact that all these manga characters and these heroes are out there, but something about them, they're lacking authentic representation of African culture. And when they do have African characters, they're either mocking it or they're using African culture to celebrate another people. So I said, Tall, enough of that. We need to celebrate our own uniqueness. We need to celebrate the blessing that we have from the culture to the melanin to all of that. And I put that all inside of Afrofuturism with manga, and that's how Bold Saga was created.
Yeah, that's amazing. When you went to the Caribbean, did you find a lot of? You said you drew, so pretty much to keep your sanity, basically. Were there a lot of people around you that also like drew some? Like, were there a lot artists around you, or was it just like, hey, I gotta do this just to not go crazy?
The reason why I said now go crazy and like keep my sanity is that when I went to the Caribbean, it was different. See, I went there and I was told I was going for a vacation, but what really happened is I moved to the Caribbean. And so that
Ah,
changed everything because I'm like, this summer vacation is long. I kind of like it. It's hot though, but I'm trying to get the best of it. And the irony is, when I moved to the Caribbean, the same day I got there, I was living with my grandparents, and my grandparents had a satellite TV. I don't know if you've ever had one of those, but they have like thousands and thousands of channels. So I was like, oh
mm.
yeah, I love TV. I love entertainment. Could just watch TV day and night. And the second I stepped into my grandparents' house, an earthquake hit the house. You can't make this stuff
What?
up, and the earthquake shifted the axis of the satellite. And I remember coming in and I looked at the TV and the TV stretched out like an anime moment. So I was like, TV, it's like, what? And then it shut off and it never worked for like 2.5 years. So I had to like find a way to keep my sanity because where my grandparents lived, it's crazy. A part of Antigua is called Christian Hill. A lot
Okay.
of Antigua like names are like literally like biblical names. Like there's Bethesda, there's other parts, but on like All Saints. But because of the fact I lived with my grandparents and the house was like everything was like from the 70s and back, there was no like modern technology, and without the
Okay.
TV, the only thing that was left was just feed, like static. So I had to
Wow.
find a way to like entertain myself because I had moved there. On top of that, I came in the Caribbean, and I came in sixth grade. Are you familiar with Caribbean education by any chance?
A little bit. I know it's like very it's like Christian education a little bit. I know a lot of people I know come from the like Caribbean, where they come from like kind of that, and they describe it as being like a Christian education type setup. Is it sort of like that?
It is, and it's rigorous. Like they
Got
don't
you.
play. And what happened is because I came in the sixth grade, I had something called the Common Entrance Exam, a cumulative exam, which is like 5 or 6 years of information all in one test. Now I came in the
Wow.
sixth grade, so I had to learn what 5, 6 years worth of knowledge in 10 months. And then they graded. They didn't even want me there. They're like, "You're stupid. You're American. You don't have no
Oh,
knowledge." So I had to
what?
take an exam to get in, and then I had to do 10 months of like all the learning of years in 10 months. So that I know God is with me. And then from that point on, it was art and then studying, and it was just a lot. But throughout all of that, I learned to love manga because it was my creative escape. When everything was like from the past and there was like nothing else imaginative, I would just close my eyes and just imagine things because there was
Yeah.
nothing else to do. I mean, my cousins let me their games, but like I couldn't stay on them all day. I had to find something to do. So that's how I got deeply invested into manga. And the first drawing book, I asked my dad, please get me a how to draw book on heroes. First book he got was on villains.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, man. But that's what's led me to today.
Got you. Yeah. I'm sure we're gonna get a little bit more into this, right? And so with you, and even into your Christian journey, I would love to hear about that as well. Um, sort of drawing like manga, like how, like, and being in this kind of Christian environment, how was that when you started getting this inkling of like, yo, I want to go in this direction of drawing manga? How was that perceived in the context that you were in, as far as like, I guess, Christian environment?
The context was always the war within. It's like I love God and I've read the Bible cover to cover, and I know that the values that are inherent in manga, like the fan service and the demons and the magic, like that doesn't align. And it's like
Mm,
I want to make a story that kid friendly,
mm,
parent approved. Can't be having beheadings and like summoning the demon lord. Like that's too much. So I just got to the point where I just got fed up. I'm like, I don't want to make a story or a manga that can sell and make a lot of money while belaying or distancing my Christian values. Like I want to make a story that's popping and great, but I want it to also honor God. Because if it doesn't
mm.
honor God, then I'm dishonoring Him, and He's the one that gave me the skill. So I
Yeah.
had to learn how to do it myself, which is why I got into not just writing. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I do cover to cover when I do Bold Saga. So I'm doing the
Okay.
writing, the art, the sub publishing, the marketing, and the business side, and my wife does the editing of the books. Because I
Wow.
got to the realization that if someone else writes the story, they're going to put in values that are inherent to manga that makes it so. A
Got
demon
you.
in the main character, summoning some type of foolishness, something bloodthirsty and violent. Like that's typical, but I don't want typical. I want something magnificent. And that's the
Got you.
benefit of learning to do it yourself. And God gave me the strength because this was a challenge. I mean, just to get chapter one done, no one can tell me God is not real because, like,
Mm.
had like a major meltdown in 2019, 2018,
Okay.
2019. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like a complete L. And then right around the same time, it's so funny. It's like when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Someone offered a free course on creating books, and that was Black Sands. They had a 90-day book challenge. I failed that, but I learned the value of making a great story because writing
Yeah.
was always something I knew I could do, but I felt, what's that word? Self-conscious,
Got
imposter
you.
syndrome. So I did that. I learned how to write a great story. Then I did the studying and the research. And
Mm.
that's what allowed me to create a great story. Then COVID happened. My grandfather passed away. I'm working on his
Wow.
funeral arrangements. So it's like all the type of stress and anxiety that no one would ever wish on their enemy every
Hmm.
day. Because I'm doing his funeral program, I'm doing his banner, I'm seeing photos of someone I love every day. And I can't even properly grieve because I have to work on his work, but I also have to work on Bold Saga. I never gave
Yeah.
up. And that's why the chapter one begins with days may be dark, but still don't give up because this is
Mm.
not like just for fun. This is life. That's why they
Yeah.
say Bold Saga is a manga self help book or PMA, positive mental attitude book, because that's what we need. That's what the Bible is. It's the good news. I started my business as a motivational speaker, so I infused it right into the story.
Yeah. Wow, yo, that's amazing. So, yo, I just want to jump right in because I have so many questions that's kind of coming to me right now. That's
Mhm,
even outside the ones that we prepped for. But
mhm.
even like, I would love to kind of for you to explain sort of the context, I guess, without any spoilers, right? Sort of explaining what the inspiration for Bold Saga, and kind of just even the, I guess, if you want to give like a mini run through that isn't spoiling too much of like kind of like the context of it.
Awesome, awesome. So the context and how I got into making Bold Saga is that Bold Saga is an Afrofuturism manga that follows Masego Umnata on his journey to be the next Anansi like his role model Shaka Zulu. But first he has to overcome tests and trials and a rite of passage that leads to a supernatural encounter where he finds out what it truly means to be bold. But he can't
Mm,
do it alone. That's why he needs the help of um, Boipelo, Shani, Mbali, and Ashanti as they journey from Earth to the stars to reclaim a relic and stop an ancient enemy empire. And
mm,
how I got into making Bold Saga, the context was that, grew up on all these superheroes and all these manga, and I said, you know what, one day while I was helping my dad, I was like, I need to make something that can stand the test of time. I can't just keep drawing logos and graphic design. I need something timeless. So I was like, I need a manga because I'm actually a video game developer. I've already done that. I have a not a degree, but I have a certificate in it. 2D
got
game
you.
development design. Because I love video games. That's one of the things that helped me
Yeah.
stay the course of manga. So I said I need to make something different. I already did 4 years of failing to make my own video game, so I have to switch it up because I just got married. I'm like, it can't happen anymore. So I was like,
Got you.
why don't I do something different? Spider-Man already exists, Batman, Naruto, One Piece, these things already exist. But what about something different? What about a different hero? I was like, what about a Nancy? I'm like, oh yes, and Nancy. And then I was like, I need to add something else to it. And then that's how I got the idea of adding a Nancy as Shaka Zulu. And instead of making it like a spider god or spider character, he's
Yeah.
actually a human, and a Nancy is the title. And then from
Mm,
there, I just got into the deep dive of Afrofuturism because Black Panther had just came out. I already saw Black Sands, Tuskegee Airs, Natty's Rocket, all
mhm.
these amazing creators, and I was like, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. So for the people that will watch this or are watching currently, what can you explain Afrofuturism for them?
Okay, no problem. So what Afrofuturism is it's a modality. It's a cultural experience. It's not just the art genre, it's a way of looking at life. In my opinion, it's about celebrating Black excellence instead of highlighting Black pain. And at the core and at the nexus of Afrofuturism is African culture. And then around that core is imagination, liberation, technology, and mysticism. Because faith is integral to African culture. I don't care what
Mm.
anyone says.
Yeah.
You look at the African kingdoms, they all have their own beliefs, their own knowledge. They have the connection to a higher power we know is God, but others have other connections and things of that nature. So one way or another, faith is relevant and it's a part of the culture. So the
Yeah.
reason why I feel Afrofuturism stands out from other types of just black manga or things of that nature is that manga inherently is cultural, which I love. It's the ramen, the samurais, the speaking
Mm.
Japanese, speaking French, Russian, all the languages. It's inherently cultural. What Afrofuturism does is that it celebrates the past, it interrogates the present, and it reimagines the future. But it
Got
does
you.
it with an actual African or Afrocentric view.
Wow. Yeah, that's dope. I'm big on so this whole channel, right?
Mhm.
Is just anime relatable, right? Where I'm taking these stories that like a lot of people love and characters that a lot of people love and relating them to our personal experience or relating to our reality in general. Because in some way, shape, or form, like everyone, I feel like everyone that I know like has grown up on Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, and for some reason they find themselves relating to these stories, but they don't necessarily see these people looking like them. And you know, I think some people say like, hey, like, why is it a big deal that you have to have like a person that looks like you to be represented in a story? And I'm just like, that's a really big deal because if you only see characters that just look like another person, and then when you see someone like I think for example why Black Panther was so big is because you saw a superhero that looked exactly like me and you, right? And it's like people get inspired from that. People get excited about that. And not saying that, hey, we're trying to take over everything. It's just like, hey, like there needs to be something here. And I'm excited that like you're doing that, right? Like you, Black Sands, like a lot of my manga friends that they're doing this, right? And you guys are like leading the way and like and making this happen, right? And I think, and you said that kind of taking these stories, like reflecting in the past, you know, I can't remember everything you said. Reflecting on remind me what you said. Reflecting on the past.
Reflecting on the past,
Yeah,
interrogating the present, and reimagining the future.
yeah. I think that's huge. Like, and when you said that, I'm just like, oh, yes, right. Like we're like I think in our reality we're hoping for a better day, right? And I think we're well on that. We should be on that way. That we're well on our way there. But in your story, you're making that happen where it's like, hey, we don't have to stay like this, right? Like we're moving to something better. And I think in your main character, like Masego, right?
Yeah, Masego.
He's dope. Like immediately right off the bat, like I resonated with him so much. Where it's just like, you know, he's been trying to take this exam for like forever, right? And he's been trying, failing, trying, failing, trying, failing. And this is at the very moment. I'm spoiling people for whoever hasn't seen it. Sorry about that. But when he was like, hey, like I've been training, I've been working hard. I'm gonna get it this time. I'm gonna become a warrior because I've been working hard. Like nobody can stop me now. And the fact that and you were like, hey, he has to face his enemy that he felt that felt before. I'm just like, yo, that's crazy. Like that's like I felt so like resonated with that because it's like how many times do I like face something that like I feel like I've been failing over and over again, and it's like this last time it's like, all right, bet I'm gonna make it happen, and then it just doesn't happen. I'm just like, oh dang, okay. Like so when that was in there, I was like, wow, this is amazing. I think later into the story, and this is at the end of chapter one. I'm giving all the spoilers. I told you not to give spoilers, but I'm giving spoilers. Like at the end of chapter one, he basically gets he basically gets his power, right? And like what I found so significant in that is that you like kind of give a theme where it's like kind of reflecting on the story of David, right? Where it's like, hey, he wasn't chosen because he like you know like was this powerful big guy or whatever, but like I was like, hey, don't look at the outward appearance, look at the heart, look at the character. And yo, when Masego got chosen for his, I was like, oh, yo, that's a David story right there. Look at that. So, yo, kudos to you for putting that in your story. But I think that's needed, right? You mentioned like kind of the manga anime tropes that are in there that sell, right? I think at the end of the day, like when we're talking about like Christianity, when we're talking about our faith and living it out, it's like God's looking at our integrity, how we're representing Him, and I think what you're doing is big. Like I'm all for like yo, Christians taking their faith and using it in various different places. And I think, and especially in art and manga and comics, like, yo, that's huge. So I appreciate you for that. Yeah, I'm really excited to read the next few chapters. Got left on the cliffhanger for chapter two. So I got behind in the book. So I'm good with that. But I would love for you to like kind of talk about sort of the maybe if there's a conflict or if you experience conflict with the sort of like depicting the African like heritage, you know, like, depicting Afro-Futurism and also kind of like in the Christian space. Like I'd love for you to like if you had any conflict in that, what has that been like for you and how have you navigated that?
That's a great question. I feel what's helped me to navigate the challenges I'm going through with making Bold Saga is faith in God in video games. Faith in God because that's the cornerstone of everything, you know. He gives us
Mhm.
power to attain wealth, you know, the ability to sustain victory. You know, we're
Mm.
crushed on every side. We go through all these things, but we're more than a conqueror. We're overcomer.
Mm.
All of these like ability, like when Joseph said how he was able to grow over when they tried to put up all these walls, he was able to grow over all the things. So that's the first thing. And then video games help me because video games change my mindset. Because one thing people forget about video games is that it's one of the closest reflections in art of life. Like have you ever seen that meme where it's basically like your plan and God's plan? And then
Mm.
like God's plan is like up and down and there's the water and the thunderstorm. That's a video game. That's
Mm.
Super Mario. World one, world two, world three, world four. And one thing I love about video games teach you an essential of life. The closer you get to your goal and your dream is your enemy. Your enemy is going to be
Oh,
standing right there.
he preached it today.
So the challenges I had for Bold Saga is that I love African culture and I did research. Now the thing is that when you do research on African culture, a lot of it requires getting books because not everything is written down in an AI. Like
Mm.
that's what makes it amazing because it's celebrating the culture. And one of the cultures that's in the book is Isin Osa. So I actually had to learn Isin Osa, like getting books like
Yeah.
this English to
Wow.
also dictionary. So when they're like ungu bani, or igamilamingu when they're speaking Eastern also Zulu, Khoi, all of that is in the book, as well as like other languages as well. That was another barrier because I don't speak Haitian Creole naturally. So I had to ask people that speak Haitian Creole. It's like, how do you say it? It's like sapase, nabule. And then I had to ask like Jamaican people, okay, how you say this in Jamaica patois? And they're like,
Hmm.
yes, that's how you put it. That's why in chapter 2 is like Wagwan, Boss, Minister Coolot, Mad Hat Cousin Pass, now we can finally enter. Like that's
Come on
actually
now.
in the book because we have to celebrate our culture. Like even in chapter 3, there's a part where a guy's talking and my wife was like, he sounded like he's speaking like what's the thing called again? Like if you ever seen the movie, the show Top Boy, it's like the English
Mm,
black people are living that are in England, like the whole
got
twang
you.
between like the dialect and like the English language or the
Yeah.
slang. All of that is in the book because we need these type of things. So those are some of the challenges. It was a language barrier. It was a history barrier because I had to do lots of research. And then it was an actual barrier because, like I mentioned, when you get closer to your dreams, enemies appear. Now, I already created Bold Saga and I'm currently facing a nightmare. Most people don't know about the nightmare because they make manga, but they don't make manga on this level. A lot of people aim for
Mm,
webtoons, they aim for just digitally. But what I'm doing in Bold Saga, I'm literally hitting the market physical, digital, and all of these different formats, which
yeah.
has triggered an issue. I call it the nightmare. It's an NOO, a notice of opposition. I made Bold Saga, and then within 4 months, someone else applied for the trademark for Bold Saga. That's a
What?
problem because we already got the books. This is after
Yeah.
chapter 1. So I was like, I can either give up or I can go hard. And the craziest thing is, even when I was literally in the case and dealing with it, well, I can't give away everything that happened in the case because it's ongoing, but they literally asked, how did you find out? And I told them, yeah, I just had a feeling to just go because I know exactly where to look. Most people don't
Yeah.
know about this stuff because they're not connected to trademarks or copywriting. I
Yeah.
found out about this person doing this thing to me 4 to 7 days after it happened. They didn't put up no notification. They don't talk on social media. It's only the grace of God. Because unless someone said to just check the website, I'm like, but God, who would file for a Bold Saga trademark? We only have one chapter. We don't have
Huh.
a 50. We don't have all this stuff. So that's why this story is so powerful because if they can see the value and try to come right now where we are, then that means that this is literally a million, a billion, $1 trillion value product, an
Yeah.
actual. Oh my gosh, this story is so magnificent because we don't just do manga, we do motivation as well. Like we have the 7 steps
Hmm.
to creating a dream manga series, a book to help you make manga. We actually have
Wow.
audio books, coloring books, all these different types of things that we do the marketing. So I would say you have to learn first. What's that? First, you learn the rules of the game, then you learn to play better than anyone else, as Einstein says. We need to
Got
learn to
you.
play the rules of the game.
Wow. Yo, that I'm sensing that like, yo, like this is really like I believe before that, hey, like this is really God directed, right? Like it's like, yo, if I believe, like I'm trusting, right, by faith, right? Hey, this is going to be like an amazing series, right? Because like you're being led in all the different directions, like and like, hey, like why? Let me just check this real quick. Why would someone trademark something that like is so unique? And it's like, oh snap, someone just trademarked it. If you want me asking, I don't know if you can legally say this or not. What
Mhm.
is it that they trademark? Like, is it like a clothing company or something? Like what?
No,
Like,
this is why I know it's God that's allowing me to go through this because it's like, what's that phrase? God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. They are
hmm,
trademarking comics with the name Bold Saga, but they don't
what?
actually have comics and the name Bold Saga. It's a technicality that they're trying to use. And the craziest thing, that's how I know it's God. When I made the name Bold Saga, it's like, I'm gonna make a name that's so unique, no one's gonna try and trademark or come against it. And then this happened. So it's just
Yeah.
sometimes you're just gonna be tested. And sometimes you're like, well, why am I going through all this stuff if I love God? But the reality is you're going through these things because you love God, you know?
Mm,
Many of the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers them out of them all. So it's like literally, I see so many people they talk about their manga, and I'm like, wow. But do you have the copyright and trademark though?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
in
yeah.
a legal sense, you don't have manga until you get to that level of not prestige, that level of access, because that means
Wow.
you protect your idea. That's why I made the 7 steps book because I'm like, I'm facing this nightmare. This is it's thousands of dollars of like fees. It's so many hours of stress. I would hate for anyone to go through that. So I made a
Yeah.
course and I made a book to help people avoid this stress. Because if you
Wow.
go through this, I don't know if you're going to be able to handle it. It's
Mm,
very hard, but I know God is in it because it's forced me to level up. Like I got
yeah.
another 6 books that are coming up within now and like the next coming weeks, coloring books, audio books, all types of stuff.
Wow. So pretty much, Euwarnii just said, do your homework. Do your homework when you are engaging in any type of business, right? When you're trying to create something, um, make sure you know the technicalities, make sure you know the background, make sure you know that no one's actually doing the same thing that you're doing. That reminds me of like I was watching this guy named Ruslan,
Mm.
and he was covering this guy that has like a worship meme page or something like that. And some company trademarked the word worship leader or worship. And I'm just like, that's a thing. People trademark these. It's something that you wouldn't even think would be trademarked. Like people trademark this stuff, and it's because you, nobody knew about it. And I think I appreciate that because like you're pretty much putting people on game where it's like, hey, like I'm going through this. I want to try to prevent other people from going through this as well, right? Like if my trials, if my afflictions can, benefit someone that's coming after me to be able to avoid all of this, hey, to the glory of God. You know what I mean? I think that's very. I think honestly, I think that's biblical, right? It's just like if I'm looking at the person of Jesus, right, where it's like he's going through trial, affliction, he's suffering, but he's not suffering for no purpose, right? He's suffering for the salvation of the people that he's suffering for, and for their benefit, may I say, right? So I think that's amazing. I think that's honestly like a Christ-like characteristic that you're displaying, where it's like, yo, like if I'm gonna suffer, hey, like whatever, right? I hope I get better. I hope it gets better, right? I hope everything works out. But hey, like let me just like pave the way for people after me. You know what I mean? So thank you for that. So I this may be a controversial question. I may get you in some hot water, right? So scrolling your page is amazing, right? I've seen the reels where like of the different like anime characters that like kind of in anime that are black, but they're not represented in a real like accurate way. Can you speak about that a little bit? Like, can you speak
Yeah.
about like kind of your tensions with that? Like, because I made a few months ago. I made like this TikTok and reel on YouTube and stuff like that, talking about like, hey, the lack of black characters in anime, right? And like, obviously, like it's Japan. Like, I mean, I'm not forcing. I don't expect them to have many black characters. But I'm just like, hey, it would be cool if they had a few more, maybe even a black MC, right? But even looking into the different like black characters that we see, I'm just like, they could be better. You know what I mean? And like a lot of people are giving the excuse that, hey, like, Japan's a homogeneous culture, so they're gonna depict black people in the way that they see it on TV. I'm just like, first of all, I know black people don't look like Mr. Popo when they see it on TV. Right. I know they look like even though they're on TV, they look like regular black people like you and me. So I would love for you to speak into that and give your
Oh,
thoughts about that.
I love this discussion because it's like one of my mentors mentioned. If you want to actually get to sell or talk about your product, what you do is you go into a bar and you start a fight with the person to the right of you that doesn't even like you. That way it gets people to talk. Because yes, it's
Mm-hmm.
social media, so there will be controversy, but out of the controversy, we can spark discussion. And then
Mm,
discussion helps us to grow. That's the whole point
yeah.
of the argument, so that we can grow. So what you're referring to, I consider that as whack excellence. Too many times people get caught up in a whack excellence trying to be black excellence. Perfect example, Killer B. Perfect
Mm,
example, Yoruichi. Perfect example, Mr. Popo. All these types of things are done intentionally. Allow a lot of people that aren't mangaka like to talk and say, oh, Japan, they don't know what they're doing. All this stuff is by accident. They're just putting out what they think is. Look. I do manga professionally, and I've learned something. What you put from pen to paper is always intentional. Even if you make a mistake, you didn't do the research, it's still intentional because you are the one that created it. So you are the one that's held responsible.
mm,
Specifically when it comes to manga, I know y'all do research. Why? Because I do research. It's part of the journey. In fact, there's a mangaka, Hirohiko Araraki, who literally talked about it. He's like, when you make manga, you do research. When he did JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, he went to Egypt. So when he did Muhammad, he actually did it based off the culture. When he had like the European culture, he went to the actual European nation. So when
yeah.
people make manga, they're actually doing it based off of research. And if you don't believe me, look at perfect example, One Piece, Gear 5. Look at the Drums of Liberation. Now look at the person who wrote the book Drums of Liberation, an African man, a Nigerian scholar. The Drums of Liberation is actually talking about African liberation and how black people use
Mm,
music and how they use liberation to actually free themselves, the mentality, speaking it. All of that is in the book, The Drums of Liberation. So when you see a Japanese character, Luffy, utilizing drums of liberation, which is African culture, this ties back to the whole whack excellence. They'll use your culture and prop up another people. Sanji does capoeira, not Usopp. Usopp is African by culture. Sanji is, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken, French. Luffy's Brazilian. Zolo's Japanese, but somehow Blackbeard is Somalian. So all these things are happening on purpose because the mangaka does research. Another example, My Hero Academia. The one of the latest chapters, Tokoyami, when he does the attack, the fist is called Black Ankh. Y'all knew what y'all doing. Just like
uh
how Keranos, when they had Stars and Stripes and she did her ultimate punch, it was Keranos, a Greek god. There's
yeah.
research that's involved from the attacks to the abilities to language. There's research. Don't believe the hype. That's why whack excellence exists, because they got books like Terraform Mars, shoot roaches into outer space, and then somehow they come out looking like black people. So it's like if you don't create manga and rewrite the narrative, more people will create more things that are disrespectful, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. There's some stories I won't even talk about right now that are literally out, and it's just that if we don't step up to the plate as Christians, as mangaka, as creators that are black and redefine the narrative, someone else will do it. Although some people are like, you should step out of manga, you don't make manga, blah, blah, blah. I do make
Mm,
manga because anyone can make manga, which is why I
yeah.
wrote a book about making manga. And if you look
Come
at
on
the
now.
first guy that made the manga, Osamu Tezuka, he literally is the legendary mangaka, but he got his inspiration from Disney. Them big
Mm,
eyes, Disney. Come on now.
yeah.
Them cinematic techniques, Russian and French movies. So don't tell me Japanese manga can only be made by Japanese people, because inherently manga is multinational. Its
Yeah.
inspiration is multinational. So that means anyone can do it and anyone can be inspired and redefine the narrative.
Wow, yo, you was just dropping gems, bro. Come on now, yo, I love that, right? And pretty much you just like I think single like in a single sentence, right? Just pretty much kind of just like silence the people that are just like yeah, anime only people. I don't know about like like manga readers, like maybe even manga fans too, but maybe not doing the in depth research and knowing that hey, they really do the research for every single thing that you put and everything is really intentional. I think there's been this sort of like babying of like Japanese culture and like they're hey like I'm not there or whatever, but it seems like at least in the West, like people that are fans of anime and manga that they sort of look at Japan as sort of just like hey they weren't touched by like European colonialization, so like they're just like they're okay because and I'm just like I don't know like. If it's depicted as racist or if it's depicted in like a disrespectful way, and people are saying like, "Hey, this is my culture," and they're presenting it in a disrespectful way, you can't just say that hey that Japan's like homogeneous, so they're not really seeing people like they're just gonna make it what they perceive on TV or from their culture, and it's like I don't know if that's a really a great excuse for you to kind of just say that they could just depict something racist and be like oh it's okay. The same thing where I had this conversation with my wife the other day where it's like with Japanese women and the way that they display like in anime or manga, they display like Japanese women as sort of just being over sexualized, and even men too, where kind of they're just like big muscles, whatever, right? It's just like, like, are you sure that every single woman in Japan looks like that? I'm sure they don't. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's just reality. So it's like kind of giving the argument that hey, they're only depicting what's reflecting in their society, and it's like, that's not true because not everyone looks that way in their culture. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you for dropping some gems, man. Like, I think that's good. I think like doing research is so important, right? Like when like if you're gonna depict anything accurately, right? It's just like you have to do research, right? If you want to do it well, you have to do research, right? And I think that goes for anything, right? You have to do the sort of this due diligence sort of for your thing to really be successful. And you're doing that. And the fact that you know all this, I think that shows a lot. So that's amazing. So I would love for you to like kind of speak into like what do you want people to get out of Bold Saga? What do you want people, young readers, like how do you want it to impact people that aren't familiar with Afrofuturism or Christianity or the African culture in a whole? What do you want people to glean from it if you would say?
No problem. I want when you read Bold Saga to feel empowered, not just motivated, but empowered, because empowerment can lead to you being disciplined. It can change your entire life. It can even lead to you being motivated, because at the end of the day, Bold Saga is it's not just a manga, it's a movement, it's a lifestyle. Because Bold stands for brave, onwards, limit, destroyer. And I put
Mm,
that right on the title because I want that to be the lasting impact. Brave in the face of adversity. Onwards, the direction you're moving, despite whatever's in your way. Limits, find out whatever's stopping you, and then destroyer, overcome it, step on it. What's that thing? Subdue, trample, dominate your
mhm,
lane. That's what I want you to do, because that's what the Bible says we're supposed to do. Be fruitful, multiply, replenish, subdue, have dominion. Like
mm.
literally, that's what we've been called to do. And I feel that that's what I want you to feel when you read it. And you've seen it, it's motivational. You've read it. Wait till you see chapter 3 and 4. If you read 1 and 2, you love it. Look, man, look, my friend said 3 is his favorite because it's called trial by fire, and that's what I feel like
Okay.
I'm doing right now because I'm in a court
Yeah.
case, but also it's life. And then 4 is reinforcements. So you see the entire
Wow.
squad all together, and as you can see, we don't have to have a Japanese character or anything like
Yeah.
Spiky here. We can just be ourselves because that's what I
Yeah.
want kings and queens to see. Like I've actually vended the event, and when I tell people that the names of the characters like Ashanti and Mbali and Boy Pello, and Mbali, all these types of people, Shawnee, it's just like I love the names, the culture, the language, because it's inherently
Mm,
us. Because we
yeah.
need to be empowered on a group esteem. So many times we get caught up in self-esteem, like, yes, that's nice that the character celebrates their hair, or that's nice, they got a parent in their life. But group esteem is how we see ourselves as well as the culture, the people,
Mm,
all together. And this is why group esteem is important. I didn't have a good group esteem growing up. So when I drew myself as a manga character as a child, I had spiky hair, I had no melanin, and I had cat ears. I was looking through one of my drawings and I felt sad. I'm like, dang, as a kid, I didn't even like how I looked. So I drew myself as what
mm.
they showed what was cool. This is why you need to create your own stories to impact your people. Because if you leave your representation up to someone else, they will do whatever they want with it. And then that
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
do irreparable damage to the next generation and onward. So I want you to be empowered, but I also want you to feel God in it. Yeshua HaMashiach. Like that's literally why I put an angel on the cover. Like I spoke to an angelologist one time, and he's like, I love your book because you don't see black angels generally.
Yeah.
And the angel is literally in chapter 1, Shineru. So she's literally who helps Misego. And why I love that is that all these times in these mangas, they got a demon inside them,
Yeah.
demons unlocking their power, the dark side, Satan, all this type of stuff is in there. So just let's flip the script. How about if God was in the midst?
Mm,
And when you see like chapters and then onwards, you see like the voices like keep going, don't give up. Even the fact that they have an Adinkra on, specifically the angel, she has the Adinkra that says Ji Nyame. That's the Adinkra for literally fear nobody but God. That's in
mm.
chapter 1. That's
Come on
in the
now.
story going forward. So it's like that's why I love the story because it's like it's multifaceted. We got the representation. Misego's parents are in his life. They tell
Yeah.
him that they love him. They tie into
Wow.
plot points, and how many you've read manga and anime, so you see that the parents are never in their lives. They never
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
them that they're there for them. Like you
Yeah.
need that nuclear family, that love, that representation, and it just gets better and better and better. In fact, the martial arts, I want you to see the majesty of African culture. That's what I want at the end of the
Come on
day.
now.
Like you see how cool it is. Like we got African martial arts, like when you stick fighting, like capoeira, sangwe. Like that's actually there, the actual African weapons, because everybody don't gotta have a katana. They got the
Yeah.
Ikloa, they got the Assegai, they got the Ikwili, the Uboku, the Ihawu, all the African weaponry, because it's just like that's lit. Like actually seeing it, and then they speak Ebonics. Like I saw in One Piece when they did the DAP and everything. I'm like, that's nice and all, but I see what y'all also did to black people. So it's like we should be
Yeah.
having that. That's why I like chapters 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. You see people dapping,
Come on
dancing,
now.
all that type of stuff because it's like what Melissa Kimbrough said. This world does not move without black creativity. And at the end of the day, if we are the consumers of manga that make it hot, that's why they had Killer Bee, because it's black
Mm.
people that kept supporting Naruto. At the end of the day, since we are the consumers and literally make anything hot, then if we become the prosumer, the producer that consumes, we change the game. Because then
Yeah.
we don't have to just wait on Japanese people to just represent us. We represent ourselves and we literally make it hot. We literally keep going and we literally elevate to that next level.
Wow. Yo, that I wish I at least back when I was a kid that there were guys like you, people like you that were creating these like stories and creators, and I wish that was a thing, right? And maybe it was, and I just wasn't I just wasn't
Mhm.
attuned to it. But like I think what you're doing now, and it's just like, yo, like pretty much saying to people like that look like us, like, hey, this is our culture, right? Like this is like, if you're here in the States, like obviously you may not be that attuned to the culture that you're from or that you were taken from. But
Mhm,
hey, in this story, yo, let's imagine like if we were there, right? And let's put a little, a little magical spin on it, you know what I mean? Let's put Jesus in it so that way like you're also getting the representation of the culture that you're from or the culture that you're in now, but
mhm,
also you're getting Jesus in there, right? You're getting aspects of what it's like for someone to, like just going back to the story of Masego, like, hey, what it's like for someone to fail, but then out of nowhere that like he overcomes, not because he put out the effort that and worked harder, but because it was given to him. I would say by grace, right? Like
mhm.
these powers and these things that he was achieving for so much, it's like given to him by grace, right? And I think that's a representation of our story where it's like, yo, like ultimately everyone wants a relationship with God. Everyone wants to feel affirmed and known and loved and valued, right? And we always try to do it. We're trying to do it by the means that by getting more money, power, wealth, the status, whatever, right? But at the end of the day, like that won't be enough to fill our hearts and the holes in our hearts. But hey, like we had Jesus come on the scene and he did everything for us. And he gave us all of that, right? He gave us grace and love, redemption, worth, value, and status of all of our identity, and that's by grace alone because of what he's done on the cross for us. So I think I love that, like that's displayed your story. And I'm excited to see, like, I'm literally I gotta go to my wife and be like, hey, I gotta buy this book. I gotta buy the third chapter because like I can't go any longer without it. So I'm gonna have to cop that. So just to see what happens, man. So I'm excited. So man, with the few minutes we got left, man, I would love for you to speak to any advice for like any upcoming artists, manga artists, comic book artists, and especially Black artists. Like any advice for them coming up in this game right now.
No problem. I'll give you guys some great advice that's really helped me. Make something cool. I know that it sounds like a cliche. I know it sounds overdone, but literally make something cool. And I feel too many times people make things that they think are cool or make things that people have already done. But when you make something cool, it literally means you did the research. You
Mm,
found what it is that you love and you found a way to redefine it in a different way. Luffy stretches, but people have already stretched. But the way how he did it, he made something cool. Naruto was originally supposed to be about food. The creator really wanted to make it about a chef, and the Naruto Maki and all that, but then he changed. He made something cool. So at the end of the day, learn how to make something cool. Do your research. Get it done. That's one of the first things. The second things is weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. This is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And if anyone tells
mm,
you you can make a manga in a minute, it's not worth it. Don't believe the hype where people say you can use AI to make manga because they're not talking about the legal ramifications. They don't care if you get
mm,
sued into oblivion by copyright infringement, which is like
mm,
thousands of dollars. They don't care.
mm.
Care about yourself, care about your family, invest into it, and get the work done properly. Easy, hard principle, super important. Whatever is easy in the beginning is going to be hard in the end. Whatever is hard in the beginning is going to be easy in the end. A lot of people want the animes and all these other things and to blow up with their stories, but
Yeah.
that's at the end of the journey to a degree. The beginning is making your book, it's hard. But at the end of the day, the benefit, it gets easier as you keep going. So that's very helpful. Don't try and take all of the quickest routes that are hacks that people tell you that aren't actually ethical. Do it
Mm.
the right way, not the easiest way, the right way. In addition to that, you have to invest into yourself because a lot of times when people tell people to make manga, they don't tell them about the other side of manga. They don't tell them about the karoshi, which is death from overwork. They don't tell them
Mm.
about all of the levels of work that you have to do. So you have to build up a strong mindset. You have to keep grinding, you have to keep going. And another thing is, even if people tell you you can't do this or you can't do that, look, it's not over until I win. Tell yourself it's not
Come
over
on now.
until I win. Speak that affirmation. I am the head and not the tail. I am above and not beneath. I am the lender and not the borrower. I am an author. Because you have to speak. Because I remember one of my mentors, Dr. Golden, said, faith is created in the ears, but doubt is created in your eyes. Because if you just look in front
Mm.
of you, you won't be able to see what you actually can create. But if you hear, if you listen, faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God. When you listen, you're able to hear what the Bible tells you and you're able to read it, you're able to live it. And in addition to that, invest into mentors. get courses, get classes, get coaching, because that's what really helps you. It's not about just saying you can get it done. It's can you actually get it done? And the best way
Yeah.
to do that is to invest into people who are where you want to be, because they can
Hmm.
collapse the time frame. Because making
Hmm.
manga is hard. I'm not going front, it's hard, but if you can collapse the time frame, it makes it easier, which is why I made a book called The 7 Steps to Creating Your Dream Manga Series, which is on my site,
Wow.
shop.greatgale.com. I literally show you how to create your actual book cover to cover and protect it as well as sell it. Too many times people tell people how to draw manga or how to write manga, but never the business side, because they want to be the business
Oof.
people and they want you to
Yeah.
buy from them. I literally read Shonen Jump's book on it. They're not going to tell you. They literally tell you there's no actual way. There is an actual way. I've read other
Yeah.
people like Saturday AM and other creators. They show you just the art side or maybe some things, but they're not going to go in depth. I'm talking about trademarks. I'm talking about copywriting. I'm talking about marketing, businesses, funnels. The book is so good. People said it's the only book you need to get your own dream manga. So go
Come
from
on now.
idea to execution and create your dreams.
Yo, I love this. That yo, I wish I had access to my clap button right now, but I don't. But yo, like that's real. That's amazing because like this how I'm just viewing everything or even just thinking right where I'm like I'm looking at this community or just even the manga community in general where it comes from and um whether it's an intentional thing or not, that it seems like there could be a lot of like gatekeeping within that space, right? And if you don't see it in the business side, it's definitely kind of on the fan side, or even just on the Western fan side, where you're just like, hey, you can't make a manga because of this or that, or because of the color of your skin. Like, like even though like people, recognize manga as being a worldwide but anyway, it's just like, yo, it's like seems like there's some gatekeeping within this space, but then you're like, hey, no, like hey, you can do it yourself, right? Like you can make it happen. You can literally achieve your dreams, and like you said, it's going to be hard in the beginning, right? Like anything that's worth it it's going to be hard, right? But towards the end of it, it's definitely going to be easier, right? Like, and I think that's a lesson for anyone, right? But specifically in this genre, it's like, yo, like you're not gonna get everything that you want right off the bat, right? Like you're gonna mess up, like things are gonna fail, things are gonna happen. But if you keep going, hey, at the end of the tunnel, hey, it's gonna be great for you, or at least that's the hope, anyway. You know what I mean? Um, so I love that even just with your story and your experience, that you're just like, hey, like we gonna make it happen, right? If I'm eating, pretty much y'all eating too. Like for lack of better words, it's like, yo, like I'm gonna make a book and like I'm gonna teach you how to make your manga. I'm gonna teach you how to get into the industry. I'm gonna teach you like even the business side of it, even a little bit where they're not with Shonen Jump and all these other manga, manga industries and companies, they're not showing you. We gonna show you, and you got the possibility to make it happen. We're giving you the tools. Is what do you want to do with it? You know what I mean? So I'm excited about. I'm so excited about that because that's like I think in this age, right, where there's a lot of people that are trying to succeed, right? They're trying to like pretty much put themselves on, right. And I think one of the things that I've been learning when it comes from I've been reading this book called YouTube Secrets, right? And this channel is started it about a couple months ago, right? And I think one of the biggest things that Sean Cannell he emphasizes, like, hey, when you're making something, when you're creating something, what are you making it for, right? And if you're making it for yourself, at the end of the line, it's going to crumble, right? It's not going to hold up. But if you're making it for service, then you're gonna do really well in whatever you're doing. And I think like and I'm hearing that and what you're doing, where it's just like, hey, I'm making this, but I'm also going to teach people how they can succeed too. So you're not just making something for yourself, but you're making it for other people as terms of service. And what I think originally, in the way that we were designed, the way that God designed us, we were created for service, right? We were created to love and care for people, and because of sin and the fall, that got messed up. So we seek to serve ourselves and let other people serve us. Jesus comes on the scene, is like, hey, this is the real way you do it, and I love that. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited for your journey, and I'm praying that everything going on with the copyright and the trademark stuff, I'm praying that goes away because I think this is like has the opportunity to bless a lot of people. I think and right now, like getting more involved in the space, a lot of people are like Christians like are saying like, hey, like like anime manga is demonic, and yes, demonic stories, demonic elements and stuff like that. And I'm like, yo, that's valid, right? But I think it's also like, yo, like if we have Christians in this space, I know tons of Christians. Like I know not tons, I know a few Christians, like my friends that are just like they're Christians and they're willing to put their Christianity on display in their art and even in when they go to conventions and stuff to be like, hey, we're here, right? And like as Jesus tells us to be salt and light in the earth and stuff, y'all are doing that, and I think we need more of that. So I'm really, really thankful for you. I'm thankful that you decided to come on and even just share some of your wisdom because, like, like I think that the gems that you just dropped aren't just gems for the manga anime community, but it's for us as well. It's for creators and it's people in general. Where it's like, yo, you want to succeed? Let me give you the tools on how you want to do it. So I am thankful for your presence, being on my channel and just yeah, just dropping some gems, man. Any last words before we wrap up?
The last words I would want to say is thank you first, God, for this opportunity, and thank you again, Eli. Thank you again, King, for this opportunity to talk because it's just a blessing to be able to just go from an idea to finishing a book and then being able to help other people. It's a blessing. And the other thing I want to think about is just like anytime you're on your journey, look at the bigger picture.
Mm,
God didn't bring you this far just to leave you, and all things work together for good to them that love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. I even think about it as like if you try and keep your life, you'll lose it. But if you lose your life, you'll gain it through Christ. So it's just like the same thing. The seed, and this is another thing I want to let people know that are Christians in the story. We made our own power system for Bold Saga because we don't want key, chakra, and all of that. It's called a mandala for a reason. And there's a reason why the main character has a fruit. You know the
mm.
Bible, you look at the
Come on
fruit,
now.
the seed, like come on now. But look at the fact that what happens and transpires. The seed has to be planted in the ground. We are planted by God into different places, into different spaces. But the way how you grow, the seed has to die. When you put a seed in the ground and a corpse in the ground, they're the same thing. But what happens is that the seed has life, but the seed has to stop being itself. It has to die to itself to become something else. Dirt, pressure, rain, storms are all going to happen. But what's going to happen is as you go through that, you grow through it and you grow up. Because the way how we grow is phototropic towards the light, but gravitropic towards the ground, towards gravity. So what's going to keep you grounded is also going to keep you going higher. Like the way up is down in the actual spiritual and Christianity, it's the same way in life. Your roots are what's going to help you elevate. So the problems and challenges you go through give you substance so that you don't just rise to the top and then fall over like a building that's not having enough foundation. That's why it's good to trust God. It's good to have a relationship with God. It's good to actually speak the word and meditate on it day and night that you may find success and actually be diligent because your gift will make room for you and bring you before great people. Because
Mm,
if you look at it from a creative standpoint, if you just build your house on the sand, the storms happen, you get washed away. Don't just look for the easiest way, look for the right way to do it. But if you build on the rock, build on the truth, build on that foundation, that irrefutable foundation, that axiomatic foundation that can't be shaken, you're going to be able to weather
mm.
whatever test, whatever challenge. I'm getting into the motivational bag, but that's what you find in Bold Saga because this is the life that I've lived. I've failed so many times, but I know, just like Michael Jordan said, I've failed and missed more shots that I've taken, but I never gave up. The master has failed more times than the student has ever tried. So don't be afraid to fail. Be afraid, like what Jim Rohn said, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. I pray that you get better. I pray that you get better because life will never get easier. But you have to get better.
Mm. Yo, I hate the end of that. Yo, listen. Whenever you're watching this, whoever's watching this on the other side of this, like I glean from the wisdom that Euwarnii is spitting right now because it's important. Not in the Christian space and just in life in general, right? So Euwarnii, thank you so much for coming on and being interviewed by me. I am really, really thankful just for your wisdom and I'm looking forward to how you're growing and what you're gonna do, right? I think what you're doing is gonna bless a lot of people. Yeah, and if like I love that you're using king, bro. So you're a king, bro. Like I love it. You're a king, bro. Come on now. So yo, guys, this is the end of the interview. Thank you guys for tapping in with us. When you guys are watching this, I hope that you guys are blessed by it. This is Anime Relatable. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you tell your friends that we got dope manga interviews from manga artists, interviews from people, and we just want to want to see you guys win, want to see you guys grow. If you want to see people that look like you that are doing this, make sure you tap in, and make sure you guys check out any of the stores. Great Gale Company, right? Like where can people find you?
So if you want to follow us, it's at GREATGALECO at Great Gale Co. on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Clubhouse, Fanbase, and Weekend Folk. And if you want to shop Bold Saga, we got chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they're all available on shop.greatgale.com. SHOP.GREATGALE.com. And we signed it for you as well.
Hey, I got my signature right here. I was so blessed when you said that, bro. I was like, this is amazing. I've never had an autograph like comic book or manga before. So I'm just like, like this top 5 right here, top 5, top 2. And it's not 2. There we have it. So cool. So thank you guys for tapping in with us. We will catch you guys next time on Anime Relatable.